CKOM News, Talk, Sports.
It was something that I wouldn't like to go through again. I was one of the fortunate ones, but we made it, thank God. There was a lot that didn't, but that's part of war. We did it with our hearts, and I would do it again.
He became a very good friend of mine, Ed Mahoney, who was describing D-Day, June 6, 1944, Juno Beach. And Ed was probably 81, 82 years of age when we recorded that, some maybe 12 years ago. And to hear this man say he would do it all again was just absolutely just numbing. He's no longer with us, but his memory is. As is the memory of all who fought for this country and who sacrificed so much. In so many cases, sacrificed their lives. But we'll talk more about the military and Remembrance Day and the sacrifice on tomorrow's program. I wanted, though, today, on the day before Remembrance Day, speak with Michelle in Saskatchewan, and this is about caregivers for Canada's military veterans who are living with PTSD. Michelle is the wife of a Canadian military veteran who was deployed to the Balkans as part of the UN force and who fought in the brutal Battle of the Medak Pocket in 1993, where the 2nd Battalion PPCLI fought to stop ethnic cleansing of Serb civilians by Croatian forces. Michelle's husband suffers from PTSD and was, in her words, discarded by the military and the Canadian government when he came home, as were other veterans. And Michelle joins us. She's also involved with OSI-CAN, which is there to help military veterans, first responders, and corrections employees dealing with PTSD. Hi, Michelle. Thank you for taking the time.
Hi, good afternoon.
Can you tell us, please, what caused your husband's PTSD? Remind us, please.
Well, if I could go backwards and maybe just correct one thing. When you said he suffers, I would like to point out a picture of recovery and resiliency and enduring personality. The word suffer just kind of victimizes a lot of us that are in recovery, if you will. So let's say that he's painted a really great picture for what recovery and resiliency could look like despite the odds.
Good point. Yeah. Great point.
So, you know what? It was our first year of marriage, and my husband was a reservist who took this call up very, very seriously because he had very passionate about being a reservist in the military. And when this call-out came, he tried along with every single other person to make the cut, if you will, and did some hard training in Canada and the United States. As part of the PPCLI's, long-known, serious history in taking this job, first and foremost, importantly, right? So he made the cut, along with several other reservists, which was an honor all on its own. And then to go over there was our first year of marriage. And to sum it up, when he came home 9 months later, I didn't really know who he was. There was an indifference right away, but yet you don't really understand. You just, check yourself and wonder, we've been away from each other, and because he didn't share anything that happened at all.
I've heard that from other military families who've suffered this, there we go again, because it is a word that comes so easily, right?
Yeah, let's use endured.
Yeah, endured. They've endured so much, and they eventually realize that their relationship has been really torn apart by the circumstances that they're facing.
You're right. And you know what? The thing, if you add in that, and then you add in a huge loyalty and respect for the Canadian military and our history, and having a legacy of forefathers and grandfathers, if you will, and great-grandfathers that also were serving members, then if they didn't complain, why the heck would you?
Exactly.
So you sit in silence, and this is how I understand this now, and not just from my husband's case, because as I pointed out, I'm very proud of his resiliency and recovery, and then he moved into another career in corrections. So, that all in itself is exactly what most people would aspire to, having that military background. They enter all different types of first responder categories.
Yeah. So he comes back. He's living with post-traumatic stress disorder. You're living with it as well. It's in your home. It's in your relationship. It's in your family.
Yes.
And governments have a responsibility, although they've denied it, and they've denied it in court, that they don't have a social contract with men and women of the military, and taken it all the way to the Supreme Court to make that case. But governments know it's going on, and so the expectation would be for you, as for other families, earlier and then later as well, that there would be some significant understanding and willingness to become engaged by the federal government, by Veterans Affairs Canada. What happened?
Well, you know what? The fact that was the most demeaning, if you will, and disheartening was that he was a reservist, as I said. So when he came back, was cleared out after a 20-minute psychological assessment in Winnipeg. I was in my fourth year of social work at the time, and we even had a 15-minute discussion about PTSD in Fort Hugh University 25 years ago. So can you imagine that, 15 minutes?
No.
Everybody should be a serious pro. So I already had skills in understanding, if you will, 15 minutes. I'm being silly. But when he came home, you're right. We already felt that disconnect. So being a reservist who is now cleared out, because now things are unraveling and he's wanting to just be out of the military. So he did. He ended his career abruptly. That was it. He was done. And he focused on the next career that he was having. And went right into that with the same fervor, if you will, and as he did with the other career. So the point of this is we had to, when it came to light due to a psychologist in Saskatoon who was very well known for assisting first responders and veterans especially, had been referred to us, that's when we started to find out we were entitled to all this different types of support that we could, in fact, access or should be able to. But it felt like we were handcuffed from the start.
So nobody stepped up. Nobody said, here's what's available. Please access this. We care about your husband. We care about his fellow members of the Canadian Armed Forces who served with distinction. None of that.
No, sir. No paperwork, no Christmas cards, no, happy birthday, thank you for serving, nothing. The continuity was disconnected. It was done. It was over with. And so I've been told I'm a little bossy and I'm quite assertive, and I call that passion, because now I realize that it wasn't just him that I had to fight for. It was myself and my family as well, because my husband was doing a really great job of keeping himself going well. But what about us? Where was our support at the very least? My husband's journey is his journey. But what was our journey? Where were we going to get help from? So I started putting pressure and bugging. And a great gentleman back then, his name was Jim Woodley. I would like to give him some praise. He honestly reached out with a huge hand, and that was prior to the OSIS days of development. And he took us in and he started to help us to advocate for what we could go, moving forward from where he was at. But as soon as we hit Veterans Affairs, other than applying for, benefits and pension, there was no extension. Our Saskatoon office got closed. There was no local people. It just seemed to be we're just going to fold up and forget about you.
So you were left, essentially, if you hadn't done all the digging, you would have been left to your own devices. Good luck to you. Hope you make it, but we don't have time for you.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I can see why, sadly, so many people give up the process, the paperwork. My gosh, trees are dying for the amount of paperwork that is redundant and stupid, that leads us all to an end result of, sorry, you don't qualify, your husband is not sick enough, you're not sick enough, you don't make the cut, he's not old enough, he wasn't there long enough, the issues aren't relevant, we're going to do some more digging and checking. I don't know one person who has ever applied for the caregiver benefit that they so proudly throw a lot of fancy brochures at and color posters, but I don't know anybody alive that has qualified for this program.
Even today?
Oh, yes. I still have not met one person. I really do hope that between me and my other advocacy sisters, Jenny and such across this great country, that we can hopefully meet the one person who is finally successful.
Well, I'm going to be speaking with Jenny Migno tomorrow on the program. I first talked with her about 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, wow, what a treasure she is.
She is. She's amazing. And she's faced what you're facing, and she's fought the battle. You're, as you say, your sister's in this battle. Tell us, please, about OSI-CAN, occupational stress injury. What's that about?
Well, we go by operational stress injury, just to be clear. And that's because the forethought of this, when all of the different partners got together at our working table and started this initiative almost 3.5 years ago now, it was discussed that we would use that as the people that were coming in our demographics. They developed their PTSD / operational stress injury by virtue of, protecting Canada, protecting their community, protecting inmates and others. And so it happened in an operational fashion, so this is why we're going with this.
Okay.
So it was started by a veteran who had emigrated to Canada, and just a most beautiful story. It's a partnership now with Canadian Mental Health Association, Saskatchewan Division, and Royal Canadian Legion. And our goal is to include all first responders, even those that haven't been designated yet, like correctional officers, to fit into that category. We have at our table not only Legion Command, the president of the Saskatchewan Federation of Police Officers. We have a head EMS paramedic. We have a psychologist. We have a college of paramedics. We have search and rescue people. We have veterans. We have asked the questions and developed our initiative, which is about peer.
So is this only in Saskatchewan, or is it national?
Well, my goodness, willing to go everywhere and anywhere. But we have focused on getting Saskatchewan right over the last 3 years and making sure that we had the initiative. And we're all volunteers led by an amazing man named Julius Brown at the helm in Regina. We're just trying to get the peer side and our phone-in group and our website and our awareness. We have links to psychologists. We provide a number of resources, and we're just trying to get it right here. But absolutely, we will be branching out, pending any offers, absolutely, to continue what we've already done the legwork for.
Michelle, give me the website, please.
Sure, www.osican.ca.
So OSI-CAN.ca.
Yeah, and OSI-CAN, if you cover up the O and the S, the man who is spearheaded this, Chris Siddons, he wanted it to be a message of I can.
I like it.
And we have a phoenix in our logo. It is so appropriate. But now what we have in 3 years, my Prince Albert group has been meeting since for almost 3 years now, and you know what? It benefits me to sit there as a peer amongst people who get it. There's no egos. People check their attitudes at the door. Their egos are left. And it is just a pure peer environment that we can honestly, openly share. And what's that's branched off now to is a family and a spousal area. And so now we have people that meet in their own space. And it's really enlightening to see the advocacy that goes around that round table in such an informal setting.
Okay, so let's say then for members of the military and for first responders, correctional officers who are dealing with PTSD.
Diagnosed or not, Roy, sorry. That is we want to be clear, we're not there to diagnose anybody. So if you have experiencing symptoms, but you haven't been professionally diagnosed, you can walk through the doors at any one of our meetings across Saskatchewan. We have them in every major city now. Okay,
so I'm going to suggest to people that they get on your website, OSI-CAN.ca, www, of course, OSI-CAN.ca, find out what it's about, get in touch with you if they have interest in expanding and opening up their own chapter in whatever part of Canada they're in, and getting this going nationally, because you're doing what the federal government should be doing and isn't. Michelle, I'm going to have to take a break, but I thank you so much for joining us. You're a remarkable woman. You really are. And
I'm sitting here in my pajamas. I'm my authentic self, my service dog that was just recently donated to me through Courageous Companions and OSI-CAN. I just have to tell you that he's laying at my feet, so I must be doing amazingly well, and I appreciate you for just listening to Jenny and I and giving us a voice.
Well, your voice needs to be heard. The other voices are heard too often, telling us less than the truth. So that's why your voice is absolutely need to be heard. People need to know.
Well, we've done the work. We've lived it. Now, we don't need policies and procedures and manuals. We need action. We need to get this stuff going, and that's what OSI-CAN is doing. We're not just talking the talk. We're out there. Yeah. We're helping. So
Michelle,
thank you for helping.
I know you're going to. I just know you're going to make it happen. I know. Absolutely know. And I'll stay in touch with you.
I appreciate you just reaching out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's Michelle in Saskatchewan. OSI-CAN, OSI-CAN.ca. Check it out. We'll come back with Vivian Krause in a minute.